Hey, welcome fellas. In this video, as promised, I will talk about why images behave in contrast to headings and paragraphs on an HTML page. It is because there are the two basic types of HTML elements, block and inline elements. It's a crucial topic and I can't just wait to get you started. Let's begin with block elements. Block level elements always take up the full width available. On the other hand, the inline elements take only the necessary width which is required for the content to be displayed properly. Block elements or block level elements always start on a new line, whereas inline elements continue on the same line. Block level elements have a top and a bottom margin, whereas an inline element does not. I did not mention margin. Don't get scared if you don't understand it. We will only deal with it later. We can set margin and padding on all sides for a block level element, and for an inline element, we can only set left and right margin and padding properties. So the text wrapped inside a heading or a paragraph tag did start on a new line because the h1 to h6 tags and the paragraph tag are block level elements. The image that we added using the image tag, however, didn't begin on a new tag as it's an inline element. I can demonstrate this by adding a border around the content. I know I have not dealt with CSS yet, which will be required to put a border around our content. So let's deal with it right away. But before adding a border, let's first add some h1 and a paragraph here. To add random text, simply type in lorem followed by the length of the random text you want to add and it will appear. Now, our HTML file contains a h1 and a paragraph and an image. Let's try adding a border around h1. For that, simply we go to the opening h1 tag and add an HTML attribute called style. Style is a global HTML attribute, which means it could be added to any HTML element, and as the name indicates, style attribute is used to style the element. And inside of this style attribute, we can write our CSS. Now to simply add a border, type in border followed by a colon and then write the value of the border property. Type in 1px solid black, hit save, and yeah, we could see a border around. It is worth noting that the border spans the entire page width, which is used as h1 is a block level element. We also add a border to the paragraph, and as you can see, it behaves similarly. It is because the content is occupying the entire width available. Now let us give a border around our images. And as you can see, the border spans not the entire width, but it takes up the width of the content. Although HTML elements are often bifurcated as block level and inline elements, it is important to note that block and inline are by default display prop values which control how the element is gonna show up. You can make an inline element behave as a block level element by setting the display property to inline block. Next, we will talk about how we should give path to a resource in any language, not just HTML. Recall that while adding image using the img tag in the previous video, we specified the name of the image followed with the file extension in the src attribute. The src attribute actually stands for the source, which takes in the location where your resource in this case is placed. So we can also give in the absolute path where the image is located, and it should also work fine. So we copy the path, feed it there, and see it works this way too. However, we could also specify the path of the resource with respect to the path where the image is located. Since the image is right now placed in the current directory itself, we use the dot followed by a slash to refer to the resource. So I write in here dot slash book.png and still it works. Now let us write a new folder, say books, and move the image there and save. Notice if we don't get the image. To fix that, simply put dot asterisk dot slash books.png to say books.jpg to say to move from the current directory to the books directory and then to the book.jpg file. We can also go one level back up using the two dots followed by a slash. So let me just move the image onto the desktop and the HTML file in the books folder. So we have the following directory structure. Now let's try to specify a relative path. So we put two dots followed by a slash in order to move out of the onto the desktop now and write the image name followed by the file extension. See how easy it was. Let us now add a heading and try to change the color of the text. To change the color, specify the color inside this color CSS property. Let us see how we can add CSS to HTML. There are three ways to add CSS inside HTML. The first method is to use inline CSS. For that, we use the style attribute to add style to the HTML tag. The style attribute is a global HTML tag and is used to style the content inside HTML. Global HTML A global attribute is an HTML attribute that is defined for all HTML tags. That is, we can safely use the style attribute inside any HTML element. Let us now try to add CSS to style our web page. In front of the h1 tag, we define an attribute style and set the color property to red. As you can see, the text color is now red. See, in this method, we have written CSS inside HTML itself. This is not, however, a good practice because we want to separate out our structural logic, that is HTML, from our presentational logic, that is CSS. So we use our second method instead. We place our CSS stuff inside the HTML style tag, which is placed inside the head tag. Now we write pure CSS inside the style tag. Here we define the tag which we need to apply styling to. Here it's h1 and we open a curly brace and set h1 color property to red. As we can see, we get the same result. However, since we have applied color property to all h1 tags, if we define another heading with h1, see, we get the same result. The third method is used when we want to completely scrape off CSS from an HTML file and is the recommended way of applying CSS to HTML. We first create a new file with .css extension, let's name it style.css and save it somewhere. Now we put all the CSS in this file. Such a file is known as a CSS style sheet. We want now to import this style sheet inside our HTML document to get the styling needed. So inside our head section of my HTML document, I use the link tag to import the style sheet into HTML. We define a link tag as a link followed with an href attribute which holds a part to the CSS file and a rel attribute which indicates that the file we are importing is a style sheet file. Hit save and see it works. Let us do a quick recap of what we learned today. We learned about inline elements and block elements and the fact that they are actually CSS display values. We learned how we can make an inline element behave as a block element by setting the display property to inline block. We also understood how we can link a resource by providing correct path to the href or the src attributes. And finally, we learned about the three ways using which we can add CSS to our HTML document. In the next video, I will speak about how we can apply basic CSS properties like margin and padding and what they actually mean. Moreover, I will talk about the global CSS attributes like class and ID. And surely there is gonna be much more in the videos to come. Hope you are enjoying this series. Let me know your feedback in the comment section below and don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to iTalk Code. Till then, happy coding.